I want to slow this down for a moment because something very important is happening here. What you're describing isn't a failure on your part, and it isn't a mystery. What I'm hearing is someone who has been through real trauma, and the system keeps trying to tweak chemicals instead of treating the wound itself. Right now, you're on multiple medications. Some increase activation, some lower heart rate, some are supposed to stabilize mood. Yet you're telling me very clearly it's not helping. When one medication increases anxiety and another is added to counteract that anxiety, we have to pause and ask what is actually being treated. Trauma is not a chemical imbalance. Trauma is an injury to meaning, memory, and identity. You've been told depression. You've been told anxiety. At one point you were even told bipolar. But when I listen to your story, your anxiety makes sense. Your depression makes sense. They're not random, and they're not happening in a vacuum. They come from trauma. When anxiety exists on its own, we call it anxiety. When anxiety is rooted in exposure to violence, death, or threat and loss, that's PTSD. The same applies to depression. That distinction matters because when trauma is mislabeled, it's mistreated, and people end up asking, what's wrong with me, instead of what happens to me. From a psychological standpoint, medication can sometimes help stabilize symptoms, but medication does not process trauma. It doesn't rewrite memory, and it doesn't teach the nervous system that the danger is over. What you're describing sounds like a cycle of, I say I feel bad, they give me a pill. And when that doesn't work, another pill is added. That approach often leaves people feeling worse, confused, activated, numb, or disconnected from themselves. That doesn't mean you failed treatment. It means the treatment didn't address the core injury. All of these events you described, the violence, the loss, the constant exposure to threat, those events are over. They're not happening right now. But your nervous system doesn't know that yet. They live on as memories that replay themselves, and the reason they keep replaying is not because you're weak, but because the story hasn't been resolved. As I said earlier, they're just memories now. The only reason they keep returning is because the tune hasn't changed. Right now they're playing a very discordant texture: fear, vigilance, helplessness. Healing doesn't mean erasing the memory, it means rewriting the orchestration. So the same memory produces a different emotional response. This is where real trauma work begins. Trauma becomes debilitating when it stays frozen. Trauma becomes transformative when it's metabolized into meaning. You are not just a body reacting to chemicals, you're a human being with intelligence, creativity, compassion, and depth. Those qualities aren't incidental, they're essential tools for healing. When trauma is processed correctly, it doesn't just stop hurting, it becomes wisdom, clarity, and purpose. That's how someone stops seeing themselves as a victim and begins to see themselves as a survivor, and eventually as someone who can shape their own life. There are treatments that work differently than simply adding or subtracting medications. One example is actually ketamine-assisted treatment, which some agencies do offer, and which is FDA approved. It isn't about numbing you, it's about giving you enough psychological distance to look at the trauma without being trapped inside it. Many people experience ketamine as being able to step outside the story for the first time, to see the larger picture, and to loosen the grip trauma has on their identity. It doesn't replace therapy, it supports trauma processing in a way traditional medications often cannot. I also want to be clear about this. Healing does not come only from institutions. There are extraordinary psychologists and clinicians sharing real trauma education outside the system through books, lectures, and long-form discussions. Learning what PTSD actually is changes how you experience it. This is your healing journey. You are allowed to be informed, to question, and to choose a path that aligns with who you are, rather than just simply following what's prescribed. You're a father or a mother. You're intelligent. You're creative. You care deeply. None of that is accidental. Your nervous system adapted to survive circumstances that were overwhelming. Now it needs help learning that the danger has passed. Healing is now possible, not by suppressing who you are, but by integrating what you've lived through. Life is about living. Trauma doesn't get the final word. This is the beginning of a different chapter, not the end of your story.